Uplift Church. All right, so not only was worship awesome, you got the end with the Ric Flair, woo, and then some awesome Clint Eastwood music there. Happy Mother's Day. Welcome to Uplift Church. I'm so excited. And I think it's awesome that we can have fun at church. And it should be one of the places that we should have fun at. We should be excited to go. And my youngest she's 6 years old, and for the longest time she would say, "Do we get to go on church on this day?" I was like, "No, it's Tuesday." And so she kept saying that. "Can we go to church on this day?" I was like, "No, we go on Sunday. It's Thursday." And so she would keep asking this because they were excited. And like, I'm excited now, but my whole life growing up, I wasn't that excited at all. And it's not that it was that bad. It really wasn't that bad. I had a lot of good experiences. And I think what's so different about that is that, well, one, I think I finally growed up. But I think on the other side of that is that I finally realized what church was all about. And it's not so much about we can be traditional over anything, and we can get religious over anything and fall into a rut to do certain things over and over and over and almost become numb to it. But whenever when you have a real life experience and God actually comes into your life and changes your heart, man, that's what gets me excited. And so now I really get excited, and I'm fond of Uplift Church, but I like a lot of other churches too. They're all right too. And I have a lot of pastors and a lot of friends, and we talk about some of the differences and things, and there's one commonality amongst it all, and it's all about Jesus. And that is what we should be excited about, church. So I'm excited about Jesus and our relationship with Him. Now, on top of that, I'm also excited about this series, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and what a unique sermon series to be going through on Mother's Day. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And no, we're not talking about your physical attributes, but we are talking about these people that impact us in the Bible. And we find different people in the Bible that we connect with. And we're going to find the same thing throughout life. We're going to connect with certain people, and we're not going to connect with others. And what this does is that it builds into our character, and it changes who we are. And there is a book that I really like, and it's a very short, simple book, but it's called People in the Bible. And it doesn't have everybody in the Bible, but it has a lot of different people in the Bible, and it gives you like a synopsis of their life and the Bible scripture where you can find their life and to try to draw something out of it. And it's a really great resource. And so this is by Woodrow Kroll. I recommend this if you want to like search through the Bible and try to find somebody that you can connect with. But through this, you're going to find people that you never even knew was in there. And some of the names that people have, it's so unique because we consider, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, those are like common names. But then there's other names that are really strange and really out there, and you wonder, man, I bet he got made fun of. So there's different names in the Bible and different things that we can draw from. And one of the things that we draw from these people, it'll impact us. And there's people that's impacted my life. A lot of people have impacted my life. I've got a lot of ladies that have impacted my life, and they mean a lot to me. My wife is probably one of the greatest women that I've ever known. And I told her, we were going out yesterday, and I was like, you just don't realize just how tough you are. Like, I'm sure your wife is good, but mine's awesome. And I think that it's great. And I feel the same way about my mom. I think, man, 2-time cancer survivor, and she's awesome. And we have these people that impact us. And man, when they impact us, sometimes at the time we don't realize how powerful it is, how good it is. And then later we can realize it. See, I had this bad experience in the 9th grade. I had this teacher that was evil. At least I thought she was evil. I'll call her Mrs. H in case she's your aunt or something. But anyway, I thought she had so many things going against her. And she was a teacher that she couldn't erase fast enough, so she would just use her old arms. So she would have chalk dust all up her arms, all over her dress. She always wore dresses. But what the worst was the coffee breath. It was like dragon breath breathing on you. And I didn't like her. I went to talk to Mom. The school had just started. I went to talk to Mom. I said, "Mom, I'm going to quit this class. It's terrible. This teacher is the worst teacher I've ever had." She said, "You ain't quitting." Okay. I'm like, well, then I'm going to give this teacher a very hard time. And so I didn't really try very hard, and so I was in her class, and I was like, I guess I can't do it. It's just too hard. And she said, Patrick, I'm not going to do it for you. Do it. And man, we butted heads hard. But what she was trying to do was trying to draw something out of me. In the end, I grew up, and this teacher made a huge impact in my life. She became my favorite teacher. She taught 4 classes, and I took every class that she taught. And she impacted me. She impacted me so much that I even got her to tutor me through college in calculus. And I mean, she was just an amazing teacher. And then since then, this is the one teacher. I had some great teachers in my life, but this one teacher I just hold up. We didn't talk the whole class. We didn't get the draw. I mean, we had to work, but we had to work hard. But she made an impact on me. And it changed me. And you've got people in your life that have impacted you, but I don't know if we really understand the implication of it all. And so I know that since it's Mother's Day, I've got some cool props and for everybody out there. So anytime you can bring a prop that can consist of a DeWalt impact drill, it's a good day. So this is one of my favorite tools. It's a DeWalt 20-volt impact driver. This is it, guys. I really like this. When I get done with it, it does not get thrown on the ground. It gets set in a special spot. I know where it is every time I need it. This is it. When one of my kids grabbed this, I'm like, no, wait a minute. You need to understand. That's a 20-volt DeWalt impact drill. Now, of all the drills that I got, this is it. Now, I'm going to let you use this, but we treat it with respect. When you get done, you set it down very gently. When you get ready to pick it up, you don't just reach for it. You pick it up and you go, oh, it's Daddy's drill. So, I like this baby. It's very good, and it's an impact. And the name Impact on it is just very fitting, because what we are, this is a piece of salt treated 6x6. And this is like what we are, okay? I'm comparing you to a piece of lumber. And this is what you are, a good piece of wood. And then this is you as an individual. But in your life, you're going to have encounters with other people. And so these are just a piece of cut down. This is a 2x6, salt treated is a 2x6. And you have people that you come in contact with. But it's not just that they come and they leave. Man, I'm so excited about this because this is a church. Now listen to this impact. Oh man. I'm at church and I'm drilling on the stage. By the way, I used a 3-inch screw. I could get by with something else, but if you're going big, man, you go. So a big 3-inch screw. And this is kind of like what we are. And this now is bonded. This is what people do to us in life. Is that we have people that'll impact us. And I could pick this up. This structure now is completely changed because of the impact that this wood now had on this. It'll never be the same. And still yet, I could take it and I could remove the screws from this and remove it, but the holes still remain. See, even after people long ago leave your relationship, they leave it, they can leave and they can leave gracefully, but their impact will still be there in your life. Now, there's people in my life that have done this. And as you go through life, there's going to be more people that impact you. And as they do, I'm going to grab me 2 more 3-inch screws. A 2.5 would do, but no. I'm so excited. Ain't that just Tim Taylor, the tool man Taylor? Again, you have people that you come in contact with, it changes the character of who you are. This will never be the same. And as you go through life, this is you. The people that impact you, and it adds to your character of who you are. And what they do is that they build you up and turn you into something. And you're going to be, through your life, you're going to hit these transformations, these relationships. Some of these people are going to be impacting you. You are going to be impacting other people. And it's an ongoing, continuous cycle. This is what I'm doing to my kids, and I'm building character in my kids, but in return my kids are also building character in me. My parents, I'm not going to tell their age, but they're older, and they are still, they they are still impacting me. Now, it's different. It's different. There's a transition that took place, and where my dad, instead of being this overbearing, overprotective dad, that we're now best friends, and I really like him now. And they did this. This is what they did to me. This is what people do to you. You never be the same. I've had a lot of ladies that have added to my character, people that I am. I've got a lot of men that have done the same thing. And as you go, there's some things that's going to stand out more than others. And there's going to be people in your life that are just awesome. See, as you go through events with people's life, that's what bonds you together. And that's kind of what these screws represent. I'm having so much fun, just so you know. It's never be the same. Now, I didn't put something together that we could actually physically use, but we could take these apart and we could still use them. Go through events with some people. Have you ever been through an experience with somebody? One of my greatest friends, Super Dave, he does a lot back here. We've been through experiences together, some thick or thin. One was about 6.5 years ago. Me and him went through an experience, and he stuck with me. We went through it together, and it added to our character. And we've got a bond. Man, it's so solid. I don't have to ask if he's got my back. He doesn't have to ask if I got his back. We know. I don't have to wonder. When I get off work and I'm driving home, I don't have to wonder if my wife's going to be there when I get home, because I know she's going to be there. Now, she's not going to be the one to meet me with a great big hug. I got 4 other little princesses that come into and do that, and sometimes I get a, hey. But they're home waiting. And these people add to that character in their life. And there's people that will impact us. Now, there's some people in your life that they want to remove themselves from it. And when they do, you let those people go. Because you can still truck on, but with the character that you are, the people that are going to invest in you, and be who God has called you to be. Now, what we're going to do today, we're going to look at a lady who had an impact on not just her family, but an entire nation was changed because of one woman and her resolve to live what God had called her out to live. If you have your Bibles, please turn to the Old Testament. This is in the book of Judges. This is an amazing story. I love this. This lady was a warrior. Reminds me a lot of my wife. Reminds me a lot of just a lot of good people. Because I know some people that have been warriors. I know a lot of ladies that have overcome adversity to be where they are. And they are still fighting for their kids and still fighting. I mean, they are just unbelievable warriors. I know a lot of ladies that have stepped up, and not only are they feeling the mom role, they're feeling the dad role too. They are bad. They are awesome. And through this, you're going to see that this lady lived an unbelievable life. This is in Judges chapter 4, and it starts out with verse 1 because you kind of get the backstory here. It says, the Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord after Ehud had died. And it says, the Israelites again. And what they did was, this is a repetitive process. And we can see this all throughout the Old Testament. We can see it in the New Testament. We can still see it today. That what the nation of Israel, God's chosen people, what they did is that they'd be all about God and worship God, give Him everything, and then they would just forget. They would go for Him. Oh, it's all God. Yeah, you're awesome. And then back again. And so it's this repetitive cycle. And every time when they got away from God, God would lead them into oppression. And what that means is He would lead them under somebody else's rule. And it was usually a wicked king, a wicked ruler. And what this evilness is, we still see it today. And right now in our world, in our culture, we still see this evilness. And all it is sin. It's whenever we forget about God and we put more emphasis on ourselves or what we want to do. Our culture is eaten up with it. Families are eaten up with it. We are eaten up with it. And sin is everywhere. It's inevitable. But what overrules that is our love for God and His forgiveness of sin. Now what it says here is that we're seeing this evil king. It said again they did this, and what happened was that God led them again to be under this evil ruler name. His name was King Jabin. He was a very evil and wicked ruler. And so what God did is that every time they got close to them, every time the Israelites got close to God, they would forget about him. And we do the same thing in our life. When everything is going smooth in our life, which usually when we neglect to pray, we'll start slacking on church. I believe I'll sleep in today. And we'll start just slacking off. And then when we start hitting those rough patches, and that's when we hit our knees and we cry out to God because we don't know where to turn to. And this is the repetitive cycle that we see. The nation of Israel did the same thing. And now, this is where our story picks up. Look at verse 4. It says, Deborah, the wife of Lapidoth, was a prophet who was judging Israel at that time. Now, this is an amazing woman, and we see three things about her out of this one verse, this one statement. The first thing is, she was a wife. Now, I know that a lot of responsibilities come with being a wife. A lot of responsibilities. Just like there's a lot of responsibilities that come with being a husband. But I think sometimes we can think those responsibilities are not as important. But they are very important. And there's many other things that she did, but this was what was listed first. She was the wife of Lapidoth. Now, I don't know who named this guy. It's a very unique name. That's all we can say about it. But we know that Deborah has what we consider a more normal name. I think she is normal. The wife of Lapidoth. All her responsibilities, and you can look at what else she was. She was a prophet, and also she was a judge. But the very first responsibility is that she was a wife. Now, all you ladies, you are wives. I want you need to own your role, embrace it, and do it well, because it is a God-given responsibility and a God-given role. Now, sometimes, especially, I think women really struggle with this. We can put the focus on the children. You can't do that. You've got to put the focus on your role as a wife first and then your kids, because you're going to be setting an example for your kids to follow. This world cannot revolve around your kids. Because what's going to happen when your kids are gone? What's going to happen? I know many people that have been married going on 40, 50 years. And when their kids left the house, they look at each other and they go, who are you? I don't know you. All the marriage, all this was revolved around the kids, and it does not revolve around the kids, it revolves around the marriage. We see this back in Genesis, if you want proof to back it up, and it's a whole other message in itself. It revolves around the marriage. Now, if you are a single mom or a single dad, focus on your kids. But let them see something in you, because this is what you're building, this character. Now, what ends up happening is that if we focus and make it around the kids, what happens is when they get married, they think it all revolves around them, and it doesn't. It doesn't. The wife, she owned this role. And this is the first description that we hear that God gives this woman. An amazing description. She was the wife of Lapidoth. Now, this is an awesome, important responsibility, so I want you to own your role. You need to own it. Own it. Embrace it. Love it. And I know that sometimes your spouse may not make it easy. And that's when you love them anyway through our mistakes and our faults, and all quick to say, I'm sorry. But in addition to this, being a wife, on top of that, it says that she was a prophet. Now, a prophet is someone who would speak for God. If you were to look up the definition, this is the exact definition. A person regarded as an inspired teacher or proclaimer of the will of God. And this is what it says about this woman. Now, all through the Old Testament up to this point, it's always been men. Men are the prophets. Men are the one who are doing this. But now we see this woman stepping up into this role. But this shows me just how wicked the society that she lived in was. Because here's one woman who sold out to her husband, and she sold out on her relationship to God. Isn't that powerful? That now she's being this mouthpiece of God. She is stepping up to it. Some of you ladies may be here thinking that you're not capable of doing things. That you're not good enough to do things, that you've got too rough of a past, or you've messed up too bad. That is absolutely absurd. It's the furthest from the truth. God can call you to do anything, and if God has laid something, a calling on your heart, then you have every responsibility, every ability to do all that God has called you to do. Your past, that doesn't matter, because God can forgive all of our sins. We need to step up to our roles, whatever God has called you to do, whatever that is. Whatever that is. Now here we see this woman, she's doing this. And she's stepping up to this role. She's being this prophet. She's the mouthpiece of God. So what she would do is that God would give her a revelation. God would give her these words of wisdom. God would give her the direction of Israel. And then she would relay it to the people. She was the leader of Israel at this time. Is that not powerful? In a world full of male dominance, here's one woman stepping up to the role. This reminds me of a lot of women that I know that have stepped up to the role, and they have done their roles, and they went above and beyond their roles and doing it very well. She did this. She stepped up. We can do it. You can do it. And sometimes it's tough. Could you imagine the responsibility upon her? Now, nowhere do we hear anything else about her husband. We don't hear of it. He's not mentioned anymore. Lapidoth, nothing. It's all about Deborah. Now, doesn't that seem kind of odd? Because we see most of the dominance in the Bible is in male roles, but here's a woman who stepped this up, and now her husband's taking the back seat. I believe her husband was supporting her. We don't see that. That's just my words. I believe she was supported. Because on top of this, not only was she a wife, not only was she a prophet, it says she was also a judge. Now, when I first read this, my first thought was, man, she's like Judge Judy. I think it was a little bit more serious than that. Look at this. This is verse 5. It says, it was her custom to sit under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites went up to her for judgment. Now, they had a little bit different court system back then. If you had a dispute, if you had an issue to deal with, you would go to the gate of the city, or they would usually have this special spot. She had her own tree. It was her tree. It was her judging tree. Named Deborah. Nobody else sat there. It was hers. So all these people come up to her for advice, for her to judge. And what she said, it went. And that's why it made me think of Judge Judy, because what she said, that was the final word. Here's what you need to do. So God would not only give her this word, God would also give her all this wisdom. And with this wisdom, she was able to judge Israel. She was able to cast advice and say, here's what we're going to do. Here's what you ought to do. And through this process, her husband took a back seat. Isn't that amazing? Here's a woman in a man's world stepping up and doing it well. Now, I believe that she had a supporting husband because she was first a wife. I believe she owned that role. And then on top of that, she was a prophet. She was a spokeswoman or a spokesperson for God. And then on top of that, she was a judge for all the people. So every day, all day long, she would sit at her tree and she would give judgment. People would come to her for advice. She would cast this judgment out. She would give this advice. Now, many of you are thinking in your life that you have a full plate. I think that you can relate to Deborah. She has a full plate. I know many of you have got these responsibilities. You've got dance and ball practice and farm responsibilities, and you both work, and you still got to maintain all the vehicles and somehow find time to wash clothes and prepare supper, and somebody has got to do the dishes. You're so busy. And we're all busy. We're all busy. And this is probably the number one excuse I hear from people why they don't come to church. It ain't because they don't feel welcome. It's like, I just ain't got time. Like, I'm busy. And my response is, who ain't? Who's not busy? You're like, well, I got 2 kids and they're doing this. I said, I got 4. It's just so hard for us to get to church at 10:30. I said, we're here at 9. I mean, excuses are only going to get you so far in life. But when you can step up to your role and own it, I'm telling you, God will take you somewhere. He will do something with that. Own your role. Now, some of you ladies have stepped into a role that was not your calling. That was not your spot, but you stepped into it anyway. I commend you for that. You're warriors. I think that Deborah not only is a warrior, not only is she a woman of God, not only is she a wife, she is a role model. And what she does for all the nation of Israel is that she builds this character. She's making an impact. Now look what happened here. This is verse 6. It says, she summoned Barak, the son of Abinoam, from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, hasn't the Lord, the God of Israel, commanded you, go deploy the troops on Mount Tabor and take with you 10,000 men from the Naphtalites and the Zebulunites? Then I will lure Sisera, commander of Jabin's forces, his chariots, and his army at Wadakashan to fight against you, and I will hand him over to you. So she calls for a meeting from Barak. Now Barak was the commander of the Israelite army. He was the commander. She calls for this meeting. She calls for him. And what she does is in the form of a question. Hey, aren't you supposed to be going to battle? And she even lays out the battle plan that God has orchestrated. And a part of this battle plan is that these other forces, the enemy is going to be coming against them. And that's what she says. Says, then, this is God speaking, that I will Lord Sisera, commander of Jabin's army, his chariots, and his army at the Wadah Kishon to fight against you. So, it's being called to battle. Now, the problem is that it was way outnumbered. It was skewed. The enemy's army was huge. And the Israelite army was very small. So the odds were against them. And here's what he said. Verse 8. Barak said, if you will go with me, I will go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go. Now, what kind of commanding army officer does this make you think of? I don't know of any. Like when I think of a commander, when I think of a general, when I think of a leader, there's a general that comes to my mind. It's Stormin' Norman. If you were growing up in the 80s or 90s, and this is the Persian Gulf War, so this is not the past, it's called Desert Storm. Stormin' Norman. He was Norman Schwarzkopf. He was this commander. And he spoke many times after it, talking about how they led and how the army changed. And he was a great general. And he stepped up to the plate. But here you've got this general, this leader, and he's like, well, I'll go, but if you go with me. And if you don't go, I ain't going. He was like, I'm out. I'm out. Now, this doesn't sound like a commander. This does not sound like a man's man, does it? I mean, we just screwed screws and salt-treated 6x6s and 2x6s with the DeWalt impact drill, and you've got this army leader that goes, I'll go if you'll go with me. And he's speaking to this woman, this Deborah. Now, this shows two things. One, I think it shows his reluctance. But I think this shows even more how respected Deborah was. This is a woman who was above other women. This is a woman who stood on the test of time. She stood for God. She was judged in Israel. She was a prophet. And on top of all that, could you imagine what her husband must be thinking? We've got this general. Deborah, don't let him take you to war. I like gravy and biscuits. Now, I don't think he said that. But could you imagine just thinking about here? Here you're married to this woman who was just asked to go into battle side by side with the general. Now, doesn't that seem odd? I think it shows how much she was respected. And not only on top of that, it shows what a leader she was. I believe Deborah was a warrior. And I believe that we have a lot of ladies in here today that you are warriors. You've overcome adversity. You've had odds come against you. And some of you are still fighting those battles today. I'm going to tell you the same thing that I believe that Deborah fought for. And she'll tell you, keep fighting. You keep fighting. Every time Satan comes, you keep fighting. Every time somebody tells you no, you keep fighting. Everybody tells you you don't deserve something, you keep fighting for it. And you keep fighting for it. And do what God has called you to do. Because you are fully capable of doing all that God has called you to do. She's a wife. She's a prophet. She's a judge. And now she's leading the army. You tell me what women can't do. They are fully capable of doing everything God has called them to do. Now, us as men, when you support our ladies, support them. But if you're in a role, do your role. I'm talking that males and females, whatever your role is, if you're in a role, you fill that role, whatever it is. Do it, and do it well. Because here's Barak going, I will go if you'll go with me. Now, I've said this from stuff like baby showers. I was like, I don't want to go to a baby shower by myself. Now, I've said the stuff like that. Yeah, I'll go. Or Amanda, she'll say, hey, we're going to go to so-and-so's baby shower. And I'll be like, is the dad going? Because I'll go. I'll go if he's going. But I ain't going if, he's not going. But this wasn't like that. She was calling Barak out on doing his role. On doing his job, his responsibility. I think he really looked up to her. I think he really admired her. What she stood for. Now, is there anybody in your life that's made an impact on you that much? That really helped build your character? I want you to take just a minute and think of somebody. Who's impacted you? I'm talking about in a positive way. Someone who's built you up. Somebody who's added to your character. Do you have somebody in your life that you wouldn't be where you're at right now if it hadn't been for somebody? See, that teacher I was telling you about, I believe she's the one who gave me the encouragement that I could do anything. Now, my mom would tell me that too, but I didn't believe her. It's my mom. But when this... Does that make sense? Your mama always tells you you're pretty, even when you know you're not. You know, that's... Your mama tells you you're special in maybe the not so good way. But your mama always encourages you that, but when you have an outside source that really builds you up, that made an impact. Now, my mom has encouraged me to do other things. Because sometimes we think we can't do something. Have you ever been in that point? Where you're looking at adversity face to face and you're thinking, I'm going to have to quit. I'm going to have to give this up. I know I spoke to you many times about what my wife means to me, and she's awesome, but I remember that we were at my house and we were coming up with a budget and we were planning on getting married, and we already had a wedding date set. We were getting married, and this was in the summer. And my mom came into where we were at, and she saw the look on her face, and we had these books sitting before us and these papers. And she's like, what are y'all doing? I was like, well, we're trying to make a budget and trying to figure out how we can get married. And she took all those books and all those papers, and she shut them. And she said, if you kids go get married, you want to go get married, then you guys go get married. We said, okay. And we did it. One of the best decisions I ever did, and Mom gave me that little bit of encouragement to do that. So I took my wife, never looked back. My mom was building this. She built this. And there's people in your life that's going to build to you, that's going to add to your character, that's going to encourage you along. They're going to help you, and they're going to guide you. And through this, sometimes it's just a tidbit. Have you ever been in a line at Pal's and somebody in front of you buys your lunch? I mean, you could have been happier if somebody gave you $1 million. It's just like you won the lottery. So, I can't remember, me and somebody went through Pal's this week, and we were turning in. If you're ever at Pal's in Gate City, everybody comes up the other way, and hardly anybody will let you if you're turning left. Well, some car let us in, and we pulled in. I went, I'm going to buy your lunch. So we got up through there and went, and I said, whoever's behind me, I'm going to buy their lunch. And I can't remember who it was I was with, but anyway, going through there, bought their lunch too, and was pulled up, and again, I was turning left turn. And we were just talking, and then, hey, and the guy, oh, it's Chris. It's Chris I was with. So me and Chris, she's like, hey, she said thank you, and she's over, she's going, thank you. I mean, I had the windows up, but she was like so excited. It was like $6. Changed somebody's life forever. See, sometimes it doesn't take much, but you're building this character. You're building this. Now, I know I'm using small things, but could you imagine the impact that Deborah had? People to come to her about what to do with family, a situation, about property and deeds, about what to do with somebody's inheritance and divide it up, handling family disputes, marital issues, family issues, child raising issues, and coming to her and trying to handle these things. See, I think Deborah was an amazing woman. And she's building this. And now Barak has asked her to go into battle with him, side by side. She does. She does. Look at her response. This is verse 9. She says, I will go with you. She said, but you will receive no honor on the road you're about to take. I love that. You will receive no honor on the road you're about to take, because the Lord will sell Caesarea into a woman's hands. So Deborah got up and went with Barak to Kadesh. I love it. She is awesome. And she's like, all right, but because you're going down this road, I'm going to get the honor and you're not. Now, he deserves this, right? I mean, he can't have it both ways. He can't ask this woman to lead him into battle and then take the victory for himself. She's like, I'm going to get the victory. I'm going to get the victory, so I'm going to get the honor. You're not. But she said this about this road. She said, you'll receive no honor because of the road you're about to take. Have you ever seen somebody heading down a road and you saw where they were heading? You knew where they were heading, and it wasn't good. You knew where they were heading. You tried to warn them. That's tough. But she did it. And not only did she do it, she did it well. He did it well. And what he said was, okay, let's go. He did not hesitate whatsoever. So they left. So Deborah got up and went with Barak to Kadesh. They left. He agreed to the terms. She agreed to the terms. And now they're going off into battle. And you can read through the story what happened. They overcome all odds. They were a small army. They wiped them out. They destroyed them. They destroyed them under Deborah's leadership. I want you to understand that. He was the commander of the army, but under Deborah's leadership, they won. They won. Verse 23, it says, that day God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites. The power of the Israelites continued to increase against Jabin, the king of Canaan, until they destroyed them. And all this took place because of one woman, who was a wife, who was a prophet, who was a judge, who was a leader. She stepped up. She's building all this character. She's building all this. And because of her leadership, because of her responsibilities, because of her owning her role, she stepped up and made a huge impact across the entire nation. Now, I like to think that I'm making an impact in the world. But if we can't start making an impact at home first, we can't expect to make an impact elsewhere. The first thing that she was a wife. She owned that role. She was a wife. I'm telling you, whatever role you have right now, it has to start from home. Because at home is who you really are. At home is who you really are. Because that's when you let your down. That's who you really are. Now, when we come to church, whenever we go to work, that's a different side of you. That's a different side of you. Like, if you ever went to somebody's house and you were shocked, like, I can't believe they live like this. Either in a good way or a bad way. Either in a good way or a bad way. It should be the same. But it starts at home. I'm telling you, it starts at home. The home should mimic your work life. Your home should mimic church. The home should mimic the rest of you, who you are. It starts at home. It starts at home. And that was the first thing about her. She was a wife. Then it carried on to her relationship with God. She was a prophet. So it starts with home, but if you don't have your relationship with God in order and starting at home, then how in the world can we live it publicly? Relationship with God. And then it impacted her relationship with others, because now it's in her relationship outside of that, because now she's also a judge. And then she got called on to be this leader in the army, this leader going into battle. Man, she stepped it up. But I want you to see how it all points back to home. She was the wife of Lapidoth. Started there first. She owned her role, and she done it well. Could you imagine what would happen in our life? Could you imagine what kind of impact we would have if we would step up to our roles? Now, I want you to understand this. When you step up to a role that you're called to do, it does not mean it's going to be easy. Now, here, what the battle plan was, is that God was going to call all these other enemies down to fight against the nation of Israel. Now, I want you to understand it was a great big army against a really, really small one. So they were going to go to battle. They had to fight for this. But they did it, and they overcome. And eventually destroyed them. Destroyed them. See the impact that they made? The impact that they had? But it all comes from us owning these roles. Deborah owned her role. She owned it. She owned it well. So, Deborah is like this 20-volt DeWalt impact driver. She was making an impact. And man, does she make an impact. Huge impact. And here we are. We're studying about her in the Bible now, today. Here we are. All these years later, thousands of years later, talking about Deborah here at Uplift Church on Mother's Day and the impact that this woman had made. So how does this speak to us? Church, I'm telling you, own your role. For a minute, I want to speak to all you ladies. Whatever role you have, whether you are a mom, a wife, a working mom and wife, whether you're a single mom for your kids, here's what I'm going to tell you to do. Following the examples of Deborah. Own your role, whatever that is, in all your roles. And sometimes it seems like your plate is so full, you cannot take on one more thing, not one more thing. But somehow you always manage to do it. You ladies never cease to amaze me. I don't know how my wife does it. I don't know how my mom always did it, but somehow she'd always fight through to get it all done. It all done. Now sometimes we drove her crazy. I know sometimes we made her pull her hair out. I remember the last whooping my mama ever gave me. Do you remember your mama whooping you? Those of you who don't understand, back in the day, you got whoopings. And I remember the last whooping my mama ever gave me. And I can't remember, me and my brother, we were fighting over something. And she wore us out. I was like, Bob, I thought you was going to whip me. That was the wrong thing to say. Because that was a turning point in our life. And if I've ever written anything for you to read, I hate writing with the passion. I despise it. I don't even like writing my name. It looks like, I don't like it. So what my mom did is that she would make me write sentences. I remember now what me and my brother got arguing for. We were arguing over something, and at this one time, I won the fight. I beat him up. And because he made me mad. And I remember my mom making me write sentences. I had to write sentences. So here I am, elementary school, writing sentences. I don't know, it was 8, 9, 10, 14. I was something. But anyway, I was having to write sentences. I was writing sentences. And I still remember the sentence. I will learn to control my temper and not take it out on my brother. That was the sentence. It's a long sentence. It took up the whole line. Well, I had to write it 500 times. Okay? So here I was in my bedroom. We didn't have air conditioning at that time. It was in the middle of summer, so I had a fan going on. Everybody's sweating. I was writing sentences. I was like, there's got to be a smarter way to do this. So I took 4 pencils and I taped them together, and I could write 4 sentences at one time. And then Mama came in. She caught what I was doing. Here I was just writing. She's like, what are you doing? Writing sentences. No. So she threw all those away. Then I had to write 2,000 times. I will learn to control my temper and not take it out on my brother. And then after that, I had to take the papers, take it to my door. So I had to attach it to the door. And any time we had a visitor, I had to do this for an entire week. Any time we had a visitor, it didn't matter who it was. It could be my grandparents, it could be one of Dad's friends or somebody that dropped by. Anybody that came by the house, I had to take them by the hand and say, can I show you something? I had to take them to my bedroom door. I had to read them the sentence and tell them why I would never do it again. I'm telling you, it was the last time I ever wrote sentences. Now, my mama looks frail, right? She means business. And she learned what it meant to take out discipline on me, and it was writing sentences. And the worst part was having to tell everybody. And I remember I had a friend that came over, and I wasn't going to do it. And she said, Patrick, you forgetting something? I went, hey, you want to go outside? She's like, door. I went, no, Mom, please, no, for the love of God, no. She said, yep. So I had to take my friend by the hand. That's weird. Just so you know, your male friend, he's like, what are you doing, man? I got to take you to my door. He's like, we coming back? Yeah, I just got to show you something. So here I am holding his hand. I will learn to control my temper. And my mom's in the background going, louder! I can't hear you. I said all that story because this is what my mama did. Never wrote sentences again. I had respect for my mom. She never whipped me again. It was the last time she ever whipped me. It was the last time I had to write sentences. Church, we're doing this right now. We're making an impact on others, and others are making an impact on us. Sometimes it's going to be a really short amount of time. It may be buying somebody's meal at Pal's. I'm telling you, $6 can change somebody's life. It may be something ongoing. Your kids, man, you're building character. Teach them how to play ball, you're building character. You teach them how to work, teach them how to farm, you're building character. Teach them how to wash dishes, you're building character. You're building character. There's some people that are doing this to you. So 2 questions right now I want to ask you, because you have a role to step up into. You have a role. The first thing that I want to ask you is, Who are you impacting? Who are you impacting in your life? Who are you doing that to? Church, I'm telling you, this is something so serious. If it wasn't so serious, it wouldn't be in the Bible here about Deborah, because she made a lasting impact. All because she stepped into her role. She owned it. And she had to fight for that. Could you imagine all the other judges and everybody else around talking about, man, could you believe them? They got this woman up here in this role. Can you believe this? No, she owned it. She stood up. She done it. She was a wife. She was a prophet. She was a judge. And she was a leader in the army. I'm telling you, she was an amazing woman. She made an impact. Who are you impacting in your life? Because you're coming in contact with people all the time and you're impacting them. Who are you impacting? I just want to take just for a moment. I want you to think of who you're impacting. Your kids, spouse, people you work with, the people you commonly see at the grocery store. Who are you impacting? Who are you impacting? Because who you're impacting, they're going to walk away with something. With something. And I say this all the time, that we want to be the reason why people come to church, not the reason why they don't. Like, I never want to go to the Jack church because so-and-so goes there. We don't ever want to hear that. What we want to hear is, man, if so-and-so goes to church, that's them. I want some of that. Church, that's the impact I want to make. Who are you impacting? People you work with? Oh man, sometimes people work with, it's challenging, isn't it? Everybody has different work ethics. Some people are lazy. Maybe you're the lazy one. Step it up. Come on, you got to work. Who are you impacting? Who are you impacting? Now I want you to think of somebody, maybe a couple of you, who you're impacting. You got those people in your mind? Your kids? Your spouse? Who are you impacting? Now I want you to take just for a minute. I want you to change gears. And I want you to think about who is impacting you. Who's impacting you? Who's making a difference in your life? Who is it that if they were to leave this world, you would hurt? You would hurt. Those are the people that's making an impact on you. Who's making an impact in you? Would you say it's a teacher? Say it's a family member? Would you say it's your kids? Who's making an impact on you? Could be a neighbor. Could be a family friend. Who's making an impact on you? Who is it that you look to, you're like, man, I want to be like them? Because when people make an impact us, here's what they're doing. They're stepping into a role. Stepping into a role. And if we're going to make an impact, then we have to step into our role. And this goes all across the board, whether you're a mom, whether you're not, whether you're male or female, it's to everybody. We have a responsibility to step into our roles and do them well. Do you know your role? Then it's time to own it. It's time for us to step into our roles. We shouldn't be like Barack and go, well, I'll go if you'll go with me. It's not a bargaining chip. If it's your responsibility, own it. It shouldn't be negotiated. Your responsibilities are your responsibilities. Own it. Be who God has taught you to be. Be who you are. And own it. And step up into those roles. Could you imagine the impact we could have? Man, if we could step into these roles. Now this last board that I screwed on here. This last board I screwed on here. I told you that when I did this and I was planning this out, that this reminded me of Super Dave. And I'm just telling you this from not from a motherly standpoint, just from a friendship standpoint. He stepped into a role and he owned it. And I'm telling you, it's impacted me tremendously, because he stepped into his role. I remember very vividly him telling me one day, he said, listen, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Everything I got. Lasting impact. Could we say the same thing? See, I believe that Deborah, I believe that she stepped in this role. I believe that she gave it excellence, everything that she had. In church, our roles deserve our very best. Your kids deserve your very best. Your spouse deserves your very best. Your employer, whether you like them or not, they deserve your very best. Period. Your farm deserves your very best. Because what happens to your farm if you slack on it? You're not going to have very many tomatoes. Your cows are not going to like you, and your chickens are going to think that you are lazy. I can say that now because we have chickens. But if you're going to do it, then do it. So the chickens that we have 6 chickens. We built them a little chicken coop, and they are Natalie's. She is 9 years old, and she is owning this role. She's owning it. And there was one day I said, Natty, did you check your water? She said, yeah. I said, how much did they have? She said, yeah, they had about this much. I said, no, what do they need? She said, I need to go fill it up. I said, listen, if you're going to do it, what do we do? She said, if you're going to do it, then do it. That's exactly right. Here's what I'm doing. Building some character. I'm going to impact these girls. So it's my job. This is our job. And not just with your kids, not just with your spouse. This is to make an impact in the people you come in contact with. They're going to walk away from you thinking something. They're going to walk away with something. Now, what is it? Is it going to be, oh man, they are the bomb, or is it going to be, man, you don't want to be anywhere near those people? My dad probably put the most simplest terms I've ever heard, and here's what I'm going to leave you with today. When people see you coming, do they say, oh no? Or when they see you leave, do they go, oh no? And what my dad was telling me is that when people see you coming, you want them to be excited at your presence. You don't want them to be excited at your departure. When you leave somebody, when you're leaving, you want them to be heartbroken and torn because you're making an impact in their life. It's the simplest terms I've ever heard. You want people, when they see you coming, you want them to go, oh yes, here they come, not oh no. Because we're making an impression on people. An impression. Are you stepping up to your role? Are you owning it? I don't know where you're at in your life right now. I don't know where you're at in your relationship with God or your relationship with your loved ones or relationship with your kids, but we have a responsibility to step into our roles and own them. You may be saying here today, but you just can't do it because your plate is so full. I'm going to go back to Deborah for a minute because she was a wife, she was a prophet, she was a judge, and on top of all that, she led the army into battle. You can do it. Whatever you've been called to do, you can do it. It's time just to own your role. I want you to pray with me. We're going to pray that we step in these roads. You take a moment and pray with me right now. Father God, we love you and thank you for all that you do for us. How amazing you are. God, we thank you for your word and how relevant it is and how it speaks to us today. God, we thank you for the words and the wisdom in this life of Deborah and that she lived. What an example to be out before us, especially on Mother's Day. God, we just thank you so much that it still speaks. The Bible is the living word of God, and it speaks to us today. God, we've been challenged today that we would step into our roles. Step into our roles. And I pray right now, Father, that you would search us out. Search out our hearts. Reveal yourself to us. And may we know where we stand with you, our spouse, and all of our responsibilities. Father, we pray right now, in this moment, that you would speak, for your servant is listening. As you continue to pray, there's some of you here today and you need to step up. You need to own your roles. Maybe there's some areas of your life that you've been slacking in. Maybe there's some areas of your life that you need to give a little bit more attention to. You maybe need to give excellence. You've just been doing enough just to get by, and it's time to own it. It's time to own your role. It's time to step up and give it everything that you've got. I know you're busy. We all are. Some of you know exactly who you are. Not saying it's easy. Not saying it's not going to be without some trouble. Not saying it's not going to be without some fighting, but you can do it. Church, if you are here today and God is speaking for you to step up in some area of your life, to own your role, whatever that is, I would love to have the opportunity to pray for you. If that's you today, would you just slip your hand up and say, yes, that's me. I want you to pray for me. Thank you for your hands. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to pray for you. Thank you. I just want to pray for you. You'd step it up and give it all you got. We'd step up. God, I pray that you'd be with these lives and help us, Father, as we own these roles, as we step up, God, and give it our very best. That we would own it, God. God, may we use Deborah as a life example, not just for all mothers, but all men and women. That we would step up to our roles and we would do it with excellence. And we'd be all that we could be, but we're making an impact. As you continue to pray, I want to take a moment and I want you to pray for the people that you are impacting. The people in your life that you're impacting. Would you take for a moment, just lift their names out to God? Who are you making an impact to? Call your names of the kids out, of your kids out. Call those names out to God. Or your neighbor, or your spouse. Call those names out. Say, God, help me to make an impact for you. Help me make an impact for you. Would you call those names out to God right now? Should make an impact. Maybe it's the people you work with. Maybe it's your neighbor. Maybe it's a family friend. Would you just call out to God and say, God, I give you, and give those names to God. Help me to be an impact to them. Give it to God right now. God, as we call these names out, help us to be that role to these people, to our kids, our co-workers, our family, our friends, our spouses, our cashiers. God, help us to the people we come in contact with, that we'd make an impact. Lord, give us the wisdom, the knowledge, and the ability to do our roles of excellence as we make an impact. As you continue to pray, there's one more group I want to speak to. And I want you to right now, who are those people that's making an impact in your life? Would you pray for them? Who's making an impact in your life? If you take a moment, lift them up. Maybe it's your spouse. They're a great leader. They're doing their roles. They're so busy and they're stepping up to their roles. Maybe it's a family friend. Somebody, who is it that's making an impact in your life? Who's making an impact in your life? It may be one of your kids' church teachers, where your kids come here and they go into these Sunday classes, and maybe it's their teacher that's making an impact in your life because they're changing your kids. Would you just take for a moment, lift up the people who are making an impact in your life. Just call their name out to God. God, right now we take a moment, we just uplifting these people that are making an impact in our lives. And we pray, Father, that you would bless them and fill them up, God, and lead them. Help us, God, that we'd be good students, that we could learn something from them, that as they are investing in us, we'd put it to use, and we'd be most excellent with all that we say and do. I pray, God, that you continue to bless our church, our families, and God, we thank you so much for all these ladies and what they mean to us. Where would we be without the ladies in our life? But we just pray, Father, that you would bless them. May they know they're loved. May they know they're appreciated. And God, more than anything, may they know that you love them. Despite their past, despite their situations, you love them. So may they feel loved, Father. And I pray today as we go and we spend the day with our loved ones and loving our moms and our grandparents, God, we just pray that you'd bless our families. And more than anything, God, may people be able to see you in us. We ask now, God, that you go with us throughout this week. We're going to be a little bit different than when we got here today. We're going to walk out of these doors a little different because you have spoken. And we're going to go out making an impact in the world for Jesus' name's sake. In his name we pray. Amen. Would you take a minute? You got some awesome praise. God, I love you so very much. You're awesome.